Well, in Australia, one thing that all of us love beyond belief is a long and gruelling federal election campaign. Yeah. And while it hasn't officially started yet, we couldn't be more excited with our two major parties finally settling on their no-holds-barred, balls-to-the-wall, rootin' tootin' campaign slogans.
For months now, Anthony Albanese's been spruiking that Labor is
building Australia's future.
And yesterday, Peter Dutton showed us his shiny new slogan.
Let's get Australia back on track.
Albanese hopes
Building Australia's future
will offer voters the promise of a new tomorrow. And he also hopes the slogan will in no way be confused with the Biden campaign's Build Back Better, which did not end well for him.
Did you pinch that from President Joe Biden?
We're not. That's not our slogan.
Meanwhile, Dutton hopes his
Get Australia back on track.
will appeal to voters who feel a bit like the country is going down the gurgler. And he also hopes it'll look cool on hats and that no one will notice he's pinched the slogan from New Zealand's PM, Christopher Luxon.
Let's get our country back on track. Back on track.
While initially appearing kinda lame,
Build Australia's future. Build Australia's future. How do we build a better Australia into the future?
campaign slogans can make or break elections. In '72, Gough Whitlam swept into power with the short but sweet "It's Time" slogan, complete with this absolute tune. In 1990, the coalition went with "The answer is Liberal," to which then PM Bob Hawke quipped, "Must have been a bloody stupid question." In 2007, Kevin Rudd ended John Howard's 11-year reign with the devilishly clever rhyme, Kevin 07.
Just keep this among us, okay?
And in 2016, Malcolm Turnbull hung on to power in his first election after knifing Tony Abbott, despite mirroring a nonsense phrase from TV political satire Veep.
Are you going to change your slogan, continuity and change, now that you've realised how silly it is?
Well, it's not a slogan.
So, who wins this round?
Let's get our country back on track.
Building Australia's future.
Well, 10 News National Affairs editor Hugh Riminton is here with us to help. Hugh, who do you think wins the slogan off here, Albo or Peter Dutton?
Well, I think with Building Australia's future, you have to do the hand gesture as well, that Albo's building Australia's future. It helps him remind him what he's actually saying. But back on track raises the question, when were we last on track? And that's the question you want to put to Peter Dutton, because when does he think we were last on track? Were we last on track under Scott Morrison? Well, the voters didn't think so. What about under Malcolm Turnbull? Well, Peter Dutton thought we were so well on track under Malcolm Turnbull, he challenged him for the leadership. So that leaves you with Tony Abbott. Were we back on track with Tony Abbott, with climate change denialism and knighthoods? Most people wouldn't say so. When were we last on track? Maybe John Howard is what he's talking about. So that's the difficulty with that one. It's a backward-looking slogan, so at least there's some advantages in talking about the future, which Labor's doing, except that back in 2022, what was their slogan? A better future. So according to the polls, most people think that they didn't get a better future in the last 3 years. So why should they believe in a better future in the promise of the slogan this time around?
Well,
both of them are duds.
Hugh, Hugh, they treat us like fools. I mean, we remember all of these slogans. You and I have been around forever. We've seen them come and go. But I wouldn't have thought necessarily putting the word building, into Anthony Albanese's slogan was a great idea. Aren't we in the middle of a building crisis and haven't got any houses for people to live in?
Well, absolutely. That is one of the key issues. And so in talking about building, he hopes that we'll think that what he's actually talking about is building, and that houses are going to be built and roads are going to be built. And this has been part of what we've seen already in this early stages of this new year. And if there's one part of the back on track element that works for Peter Dutton, is that people do remember that there was a time, some viewers of the project might remember when there was a time, then people, when moderately making an effort at work and putting a little bit of money aside, meant that they could even buy houses and live in them. Now, that is a time when it seemed like the country was on track, at least when it came to home ownership. So these are just promises, of course. You've got to put meat on the bones, but they're just slogans. They're no more than that.
Well, they could buy food and things like that. I mean, the cost of living crisis is central, I think, especially the way the coalition's framing it. I do wonder, though, with this, Hugh, whether there's so much hindsight, right? Like, if you win, it was a great slogan. And if you lose, it was a terrible slogan. What the hell were you thinking of? And I wonder if it has nothing really to do with the outcome. That moments arrive, certain parties are more favoured to win because of a whole lot of circumstances. Do you think slogans actually work with voters?
Well, it's interesting that in 1983, Bob Hawke won with the slogan, bringing Australians together. That was his consensus policy. No one remembers that slogan now, but they do remember that Bob Hawke won in 1983. So winning the election is the key thing. But I think it would be true that most people, even if they were children at the time, as I was, remember It's Time. Most people remember Kevin 07. I would say that most people would struggle to name another slogan. So you're right, most of the time, there's still elections, there are still results. Slogans are just sort of dust on the wayside, really.
I agree with you, Hugh. I think slogans are a bit naff, but also, what do I know? I just deliver news differently. But I think, I've got a theory here that it's harder to do a slogan if you're in power, because if you're not in power, you can kind of be like, we're going to right the ship. So I've written some for Albo. I want to get your thought on this. First one is, you can't vote for Dutton. It's just Dutton dressed as lamb. Oh, that didn't go well.
You didn't like that. Sorry.
Okay, what about this? And this, I think Albo should go with this. Oh, come on, we've been trying. Give us another go.
That is pretty close. That is pretty close to reality. We've been trying. Give us another go.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Truth in advertising.
Reality is not necessarily effective, though,
Yes,
Sam.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, but look, I've got a career as a speechwriter, I think.
All the best.
Hugh, thanks for the news. See you soon.